Morning. Wake up, Instagram. Good morning. Good morning, Facebook. Good morning, Instagram. I think it is Tuesday. I feel like in isolation I have to tell myself what day it is. Today is Tuesday. Good morning. Time to wake up. I'm here. You're here. Good morning. Hi there. I see some of you showing up on Instagram. Good morning. Nice to see you. Happy Tuesday. For those of you over in Facebook, sorry about the connection issue yesterday. It appears that lives are kind of cutting out. Today I directly connected it to the wall, so if it cuts out again, I don't know what else I could do, but I will repost as I did yesterday. If we have any connection problems on either sides, guys, I always repost this after the fact. So, anyway, here I am. We're going to talk about eczema today. Now, this has been something that has had so many questions during my lives. A lot of you pop up questions about eczema, so I thought it was time that I talked about it. So here I am to talk about it. Do I have anyone over there on Facebook this morning, or are you guys all a little slow and creaky this morning? Instagram only has a few as well. Is everyone still asleep? I kind of am. I've got my oat milk latte that I make myself, that I love. Trying to wake up a little on this Tuesday morning of 100 degrees here in Arizona. But that's okay, you know, nothing's wrong with a little vitamin D out in the sun. So I am Dr. Trisha Pingel, and this is your morning checkup, and it is Tuesday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. And we are going to talk about eczema. Now, eczema basically means that you have some sort of inflammation in the skin. The problem with eczema, diagnosing eczema, treating eczema, and all of that is that there's so many different triggers and there's so many different reasons that it happens. So that can make it very difficult. It also affects a wide range of ages. So my youngest son, who is now almost 9, which is crazy, when he was born, he would get rashes all the time and these little eczema dry skin patches. Now my first son didn't get that, so it was a bit of a surprise to me. And I remember thinking as a new parent, okay, what's going on? Like, I don't have eczema, my husband doesn't have eczema, you know, supposedly this is inherited, you know, what am I supposed to do? And I didn't want to put all sorts of junky creams on him and whatnot. He just would have these reactions to stuff. So, you know, as a naturopathic physician, I thought internally first, I thought, okay, he's eating something either from what I'm giving him or, you know, from any supplementation, because it got worse as he became a toddler, particularly when he would jump in a pool. He would have this dry skin from chlorine-based pools, but then he would also just get it randomly, you know, without an obvious trigger. And it took a lot of removing things from the diet and a lot of lifestyle changes to kind of narrow it down. Nowadays, very rarely do I ever see a rash on him. Gosh, I'm trying to think, in the last 3 or 4 years, maybe once, you know. So it is something that can be treated, but you have to look at multiple areas of the body. It's not simply just putting lotion on it or putting a steroid on it. You have to look for the trigger, right? So, let's talk. First of all, we don't really know there's so many causes and there's a lot of theories that I have on it, which I'm going to dive into. But as far as a dermatology type perspective, most of the time it's like, oh, you have eczema. Here you go. Here's a cream. Right? There isn't a lot of investigation as to why. You might get allergy testing, but it's looking very much at the environment, what's affecting from the outside in, not looking so much at what's from the inside out. And I look at it from the inside out because it's a trigger of the immune system. And if it's a trigger of the immune system, yes, environmental things can trigger that, but the reaction comes from within. So you have to look at external and internal factors, which is the important part of eczema. So 80% of kids that, I had this stat, and of course it just scrolled right up. There we go. 80% of kids with eczema will usually later be diagnosed with food allergies, allergic rhinitis or allergies, and asthma. And it's often in that order. and that's called the atopic march. So it develops, right? This is something that grows into other concerns and other health conditions. So if you find an infant with eczema, that's a great time to figure out the trigger, because there's less environmental impact at that point. When you wait until an adult, it can be a little bit more tricky, because we've had stress, we've had life, we've had, we eat different things, so it's a lot harder to narrow down what that trigger is. So it's much easier in infants than it is further down the line, because you have a lot more control. Even with a toddler, you have a lot more control over their food. By the time they hit 9 years old, they go to a friend's house. My son will go to a friend's house and eat, I'll call one of my great friends out. They'll go over there and eat donuts. You know who you are. And I love you, and it's okay. He doesn't have a rash anymore, where if he would have had a donut when he was 2 years old, he would have broken out in a rash, no question whatsoever. So, they do kind of grow out of it. If you can find the trigger and you can support their immune system, the digestion and all of that, you can grow out of it. Same thing goes for adults. It just sometimes is a little bit harder to find those triggers, or sometimes it's a multifactorial trigger. It's coming from all sorts of different places. Once that immune system is triggered, it's a cascade of events, right? So it can be a little bit more tricky, but it's doable, okay? It's totally doable. So let's think about eczema as a trigger of something, okay? We're just gonna think about something's causing the body to flare up. Now, often it could be something as simple as a new laundry detergent, or a new cream, or a sunscreen. A lot of people do just sunscreens and additives, but more commonly I find it starts in the gut. Okay, it's something going on in the gut. By the way, my son can now swim in chlorine-based pools. He couldn't for the longest time. So my husband at the time was a swim instructor, and my kids were born in the water. They were born at home in the water. So they were born in the water. So they started swim lessons like as soon as their belly button fell off, as soon as their little thing fell off and they could go in the water, they were swimming. And so our first son wasn't an issue. He would go in the chlorine pool, no problems. He was great. He loved swimming. And then when we put Shay in, he had a lot harder time, because he would come out of the pool and he was just literally red from top to bottom, and he was itchy. And anyone who's had eczema and dry skin knows that the more itchy it is, the more fragile it becomes. So the more you scratch it, the more injury you get to the skin, right? And the worse the itch becomes, and the worse the flare up becomes. And he was a baby, so he was uncomfortable. And so we would cover him in shea butter, which is 100% shea butter, and it's really thick if you've ever used shea butter, and it would just kind of like coat his skin and calm it down. Well, when he got old enough to understand what it was, oddly enough, his name is Shay. And so when he was a toddler, he would be like, "Where's my butter? Where's my butter? Where's my butter?" And we would slather him in this butter. So we had to end up pulling him out of swim classes because it was too much for his skin. Luckily, we have a saltwater pool, so we taught him in a saltwater pool. And now, he must have been out of chlorine for 3 or 4 years. We really didn't put him in any sort of chlorine pool like that. But now he can go in one, because we supported his system, his immune system, and now he doesn't have those reactions like he used to. That shea butter sits in a drawer, which is really a shame. So first thing I look at when someone presents with eczema is gut health, okay? Are you digesting your food? What is your bacterial flora? Are there any other gut symptoms? Okay, very, very, very important. The skin is our largest detoxification organ, okay? So if there's a problem in the skin, it's linking to something inside trying to get out. Think about that, okay? So skin problems, this is even beyond eczema. Acne, psoriasis, random rashes of other sorts. These types of things are things trying to get out. You see this in kids a lot too with viral rashes. They get some weird virus and they break out in a rash while they have a fever for a couple days and then it goes away, right? It's because the skin's trying to get something out of it, okay? It's very efficient at that. In fact, there is a ton of evidence and research on something called the gut-skin axis. Okay, we have a lot of these little axes, but essentially what it says is that the flora in the gut actually have a communication system with the skin, and the skin has a communication system back, okay? So there's all of this interaction going on, which is really cool, right? In fact, I'm gonna pull up this study. Good morning, everyone over there on Facebook. Thank you for saying good morning, I appreciate it. Nice to see you all. So what I find, I want to talk about some flora here. There's some cool studies on that. But number one, you have to look at, are you digesting your food? So skin requires nutrients. Okay, the body needs to be digesting, absorbing food for energy. If it's not, and things are sitting in the stomach or sitting in the intestine and causing inflammation, that can lead to an immune trigger. Leads to immune trigger, the body tries to get it out in the skin it comes. So you have to look at gut health as the primary source, okay? Now, a lot of people would say, well, I had my allergies tested and I'm allergic to mesquite trees, and every allergy season I have worse eczema. Yeah, something external can trigger it, but it's triggering something internal, okay? So you have to fix the internal so that that external doesn't trigger the internal. Make sense? Okay, so digestion problems, breaking them down, nutritional deficiencies. Those are things you definitely need to look at, particularly in adults. Kids, kind of come in a little bit more nutritionally sound if there was a regular pregnancy, but their flora is not always well established, okay? And usually patients, children and adults with eczema, have some other sort of gastrointestinal complaint, okay? Whether that be heartburn, food allergies, bloating after eating, diarrhea, vomiting, constipation, something. Their gut isn't 100%, usually always. I usually find that, okay? There's a rare person who doesn't have that, or they don't know they have it, right? Low stomach acid also can play a role in there, and we'll come back to that. So malabsorption, digestion. So anytime that you're not breaking food down and you're not extracting nutrients from it, it causes inflammation in the gut. Now, for those of you that were here yesterday and heard me talk about inflammatory herbs, that's where a lot of these come into, right? You have to send nutrition to the gut. You have to lower the inflammation of the gut. Lower the inflammation, you lower the immune response, less eczema, okay? And less allergies, and often less asthma, okay? So very, very important. Hydration is also very important. Okay, so stay hydrated. Yes. So flora, I really want to talk about this cool relationship between our gut flora and eczema. So I have done a live on probiotics. I also have done a couple articles on probiotics talking about the microbiome and how that impacts our body. Now, stress impacts the development of your microbiome, diet impacts the development of the microbiome, and the microbiome has a direct connection to the skin. There was a study that came out that talked about this in pretty good detail. Let's see, it was released in 2018 on PubMed. And basically the highlights of it was that the gut microbiome plays a critical role in the development of eczema by regulating the immune response through the crosstalk of the microbiome and the host, meaning us, especially in early life. So what they're saying is there's a communication that happens when a child is born between the bacteria in their gut and their immune system, okay? And this decides whether or not they're going to have reactions to things. Now, a lot of this is not easily controlled. You have a baby, maybe you're breastfeeding, maybe you're feeding formula, whatever you have to do for you, but maybe that's not working well in the child. Perhaps maybe they don't have a really good, well-developed digestive system. I think my son fell into that category. I don't have a great digestive system, or I didn't until I started healing it. So I think I passed that on to my poor little boy, and he just didn't have a very good digestive process when he was born, and he was very small. Even though he was term, he was just a tiny little guy, 6 pounds and 12 ounces, where my other son was almost 9 pounds. So just very small, and kind of looked kind of weak. I mean, he was just this precious little nugget, but he didn't have this great digestive process, and he wasn't really wanting to eat a lot, and he didn't have good digestion. So I'm pretty sure that's probably where a lot of his eczema stemmed from. And the same goes for us if you're not breaking it down. But from diet, and from that, you also control microbiome. So kids are born with a certain microbiome flora, a lot of the time passed from mom to them. So if there's an imbalance in the microbiome, that causes different triggers in the immune system. Okay, so certain foods, certain exposures may cause a trigger where others don't. Okay, and that's possibly why, if they're not developing enough. That is why probiotics are so essential during pregnancy, and definitely essential in general, especially if you're having some sort of skin issue or you're having some sort of digestive issue. Good morning, everyone, for everyone that's joining. Nice to see you. Okay. Now, they're also saying in this study that various environmental factors, such as stress, diet, pollutants, will impact the development in children of their microbiome and therefore impact the development of their immune system. I'm not going to go into all of these studies right now, but there's some really cool stuff about allergies on kids that live in farms versus kids that don't, and how that changes. And it all comes down to the exposure that they had in utero due to different things and the flora that came with them and how they entered the world. So probiotics are really, really important. There was so much data on this. It's too cool. So there's a link I put on Facebook, and when I post this to IGTV, I can add it to Instagram to an article at drpingel.com on eczema. And there is a link to this study in the digestion section, I think. It's link number 5, gut health and eczema. So you can check it out, okay? In fact, there was another study, there's a couple studies here, showing that treating the malabsorption, so treating nutritional absorption from food, will actually lower eczema symptoms and small intestinal inflammation. There was another one on children with eczema and small intestinal inflammation, and it showed that giving probiotics to children could not only improve their intestinal integrity, but it would also lessen gastrointestinal symptoms in these eczema cases. Kind of cool. So keep that in mind. I have so much information on this one, so sorry, I keep looking at my reference because I don't want to bombard you. This article is at drpingel.com, and you can check it out there. But very, very cool. In fact, there was some information and some studies on how the skin actually triggers like neurotransmitter release, triggers stress response in the body. There's all these communications and nerve endings in our body, and they all trigger each other. And all of this comes back to the immune system. If the immune system is triggered to respond, it will. So often you have to remove things that trigger, and finding those triggers is simply simplifying things, backing up and looking at the things you're putting in your environment. Liver function. Now, I talked about the liver in a live, in fact, I replayed it on Friday about how important the liver is to our health. And the liver is also very important when it comes to skin conditions. Any of them, not just eczema, okay? As a naturopathic physician, skin is skin to me. If something's coming out in the skin, regardless of what it is, something's going on inside. Most likely it's trying to remove a toxin. Liver comes in as a key part of this. Now, not so much in infants as much, more so in adults, okay? But things that are essentially bogging down the liver, or the liver is kind of building up. It's like when we all bring toxins into our body, okay? I think right now, everyone on isolation may be drinking more wine. I don't know. It seems to be the consensus, right? You're putting more toxin in your body. When you're outside, luckily our pollution's going down through this whole thing, but when you're outside and you're exposed to pollution and you're exposed to trees blooming and you're exposed to, foods, chemicals, those types of things, it can back up in the liver. If your liver isn't highly efficient and not used to that, or if you're under a ton of stress and you're not sleeping at night, you're not repairing your cells, you're not doing all these things, you will continue to have a backup in the liver. As you have a backup in the liver has to get these toxins out. That's its job, okay? The whole purpose of the liver, if I was to write a job description for the liver, it has to regenerate cells, it has to regenerate healthy cells, but it has to primarily remove the toxins, get the things out that are going to cause a problem. So if your liver isn't doing that, eczema can get worse. This is why stress can also impact eczema, not only by the direct impact on the flora in your gut, or by direct impact on the digestion, okay, by slowing it down, but also the direct impact on the liver. So once again, folks, stress is not good for you. Not chronically. You have to free that up. Let it go, okay? And this could be anything. It doesn't have to be alcohol, okay? In the case of Shay, we actually avoided dairy, we avoided gluten, we avoided any type of processed coloring, flavoring, those types of things all the way through toddlerhood. Now, because we did that, because we gave his body time to learn how to break things down, I gave enzymes when he was a toddler to help him break down food. I supported his digestion. I made sure he was getting a healthy diet. And then when he went to kindergarten and when get invited to a birthday party, we'd be like, fine, dude, have a piece of pizza. And he did okay. He didn't have any rashes. He seemed to digest it well, no digestive concerns. So in moderation now, he can be a normal kid, you know, and not feel like the oddball. Now, granted, as a toddler, he felt a little like the oddball when he wasn't the one having the cupcake with blue frosting. You know, we would have to bring him something. But just by taking some of those heavy foods and commonly genetically modified foods and foods that maybe his digestive system was not quite ready for, we were able to nip it in the bud. Now, as an adult, you've had years and years and years possibly of these foods, so it can be a little bit more confusing on what to remove. I will tell you, I see a ton of connections between dairy and gluten consumption and flaring eczema. So always one to consider. It's not going to hurt you to remove those for 3 months. You're not going to see a nutrient deficit from that, especially if you're replacing it with great plants. Okay, so liver, all of this stuff to help the liver and to also help to lower the inflammation. Okay. So there was what was it called in this study? So there was a study that looked at that relationship between skin and all these other symptoms, including eczema flare-up, and they called it, I found this so interesting. This is a mouthful. Let's see if I can do it. Psychoneuroimmunology of psychological stress and atopic dermatitis, which is eczema. Okay, so what they're saying is that the skin and the neurotransmitters in the brain and the microbiome in the gut all talk to each other and decide how to respond. Pretty cool. I have a link to that one as well on the website. So check that out. So what do we do? What do we do about eczema, right? I've been kind of talking about different reasons, different things that can flare it, different triggers. And I want to mention on food allergies, because a lot of people ask if they should get their food allergies checked. Here's the thing with food allergies. There's a difference between food allergies and food intolerances, okay? So food allergies, what I see when I say allergy is that's like you eat a strawberry and you swell up like a balloon, okay? That's an allergy. So when you go to your doctor and let's say you have eczema or you have allergies and they do this prick test and they see whether you swell, they're looking for that quick atopic reaction, that swelling or that immediate impact, okay? Now, if you find that, great, you remove those from your diet, a lot of the times your symptoms go down, okay? Maybe you found a trigger. The majority of the time, you don't always find a trigger, or they're real minimal, you know, and then you're giving yourself allergy shots, using steroids, you know, whatever you can do to calm that immune system down. Now, suppressing the immune system is not always a great idea, guys. Now, short term, I get it. Maybe you have a massive rash, you put a steroid cream on it for 5 days, and it clears up and you're fine. Okay. But when you're having to do that on a regular basis, the immune system response is not going to be as sharp. Like if you think about this, like when my kids were toddlers and let's say I'd sat down and finally watched a show, right? And they're like, mom, right? Eventually I don't hear them anymore. I just have to tune it out. I'm like, oh my God, I need to give mom her time, right? Your immune system's the same way. So if you're always suppressing it, you're like, forget it, go away. What is the toddler gonna do eventually? The toddler's gonna have a meltdown. They may throw the remote at the TV. They may throw themselves to the ground. So if you're always telling your immune system to be quiet when it's trying to alert you to something, at some point it's gonna blow up, okay? So you wanna make sure you listen. If you're having eczema flares, don't always suppress it. You can suppress the symptom temporarily, but look for why it's saying mom, right? Why? What's going on? Okay? Very important in the treatment. So using these over-the-counter medicines can be good for temporary relief. Personally, I really like 100% shea butter. I like coconut oil, avocado oil. Definitely tons of hydration. Keep in mind, how do we get things out of our body? Okay, we do that by elimination. So we need to eliminate more. If things are coming out through the skin, and this goes for any skin condition, it means you're not eliminating what you should, or you have too much inflammation and you can't keep up with it. Okay, you're not eliminating enough of it. So instead of resorting to prescriptions, let's look at some things that you can do to kind of start benefiting your health. Number one, dietary changes. So we kind of touched on this. Anything that comes out of a box, anything that has a ton of additives to it can absolutely be flaring your eczema. It will. Often dairy flares your eczema. Take a look. Take a really honest look at what you eat in a day over the course of a week. So if you took a really good log for 7 days and just wrote down everything you ate, do you find that you're primarily eating from a certain food group the majority of the time? If you find that, usually you can start to pinpoint. So like people say, okay, well I have, a yogurt for breakfast with some fruit. And then for lunch, I have, a sandwich with turkey and cheese. And then for dinner, I usually have pasta or vegetables and steak or so. If you find that you're adding dairy to a lot of things, you find you're adding a lot of gluten to a lot of things, you find you're eating only carbohydrates, not enough protein, not enough vegetables, those are things that you can work on, okay, is to incorporate more vegetables. Now, here's the reason why plants do so well for eczema. They are incredibly nutrient rich, okay? They're easy to digest. They have wonderful healthy fats. So that kind of brings me on to another area, which is healthy fats in your skin. So if your skin is chronically dehydrated and dry, it's not getting enough water to it. Usually you're not drinking enough water or you don't have enough fat in your diet, okay? Because when our skin is nice and plump and has good fats, that will absorb water. If the fats are flat, if you can imagine like a cell that's flat, it can only absorb so much water. If you have a nice, big, round, plump, fat cell, more water can get into it, right? So you want nice, big, plump, fat cells. Now, what do I mean by fat cells? I mean like omega-3s, nuts, seeds, avocados, healthy, wild-caught fish, omega-3 supplement. A lot of people do it in supplement. You need healthy fats, not only for your neurological system, but for your skin. A lot of the times you can tell that your skin is a bit deficient in water or fats by looking for tiny little bumps. I often get them on the back of my arm when I haven't been taking care of myself, or when I'm under a lot of stress, I'll get these little tiny bumps on the back of my arm, usually indicative of some sort of fatty acid deficiency or water deficiency. Now, these go hand in hand. If you increase your fats, also increase your water so they can work together, okay? You need nice, healthy, plump skin, okay? And this goes for any skin condition. Remember also that the skin's primary fuel is glucose. It's sugar, okay? So that might be, if you're under stress and you're eating a lot of carbohydrates and sugars and breads and stuff like that, it doesn't have any of the nutrients with it, but it's feeding the skin, okay? So we wanna make sure that we eat plants for not only the carbohydrates for the skin, but also for the minerals that are required to maintain skin health and for the good fats that help that fat layer, okay? Very, very, very important. Take an assessment of your diet. Be realistic and honest. We all screw up. We don't all eat the right things. There are some times where I'm sure my level of screw up is different at this point from so many years of working on this, but it's taken me a lot of years to get to that point, okay? So start somewhere. Take a look at what you're eating. See if there's a trend. If you're eating a lot of one particular food group, might want to back off that food group. I also suggest that those that do eat dairy and gluten in a pretty regular basis, like what's a regular basis? I would say more than once a week to start, should definitely pull those out for 3 months, especially in adults. And in kids, it's real easy to pull out, guys. They don't really know the difference between a different type of milk and regular milk at that age. Take a look at anything that could be drying your skin. And I'm sure you've been told this for any of you that have gone to allergists. Detergents, lotions, shampoos, things like that. Okay? If you do remove those food allergens, make sure you look for hidden sources, okay? If you're getting something out of a box, read the whole label. Okay? Probiotics. I cannot stress this enough. If you have skin issues, you need to look at your gut flora, okay? You need to look at your gut flora. That's what matters. That is your key. Now, the other things will speed this up, fixing the diet, using anti-inflammatories, all these other things I'm going to talk about are going to speed up the healing. But if your flora is not intact, not going to get where you want it to go, okay? So how do you do this? How do you pick a probiotic? Well, guess what? drpingel.com talks about this. I have 2 articles about that. I did a live about probiotics. It's on my YouTube channel. It's on Facebook. It's on Instagram. So check it out, okay? There were some fabulous questions that people asked. I encourage you to look at the comments section of the probiotics live. People asked very just precise and wonderful questions that I went in and answered. So take a look at that. This is not just about getting lactobacillus, okay? We get lactobacillus from, yogurts. We get it a lot from fermented foods and stuff, but we also need bifidobacteria. And in my opinion, many times we need Saccharomyces. So we need to look at a well-rounded probiotic, and we need to pick a good one. How do you pick a good one? Check out that live or check out drpingel.com, okay? Promise the answer's there. You have any further questions, you shoot them below and I'll come back and answer them, but that's where you're gonna find the answer. So in addition to that, and I'm gonna fly through this part pretty quick because we talked a lot about it yesterday, was looking at anti-inflammatories for the gut, bringing the inflammation down in the gut. So when you have a trigger, it causes inflammation. That triggers the immune system. So if you're having that pretty regularly and it's starting in the gut becomes inflamed. As the gut becomes inflamed, you have to bring that inflammation down. That's the reason why steroids work, guys. They bring inflammation down. The problem is, if you're on a long-term steroid, your immune system is going to throw the remote at you, just like that toddler we talked about. They're not going to be happy, okay? So we have to find a way to gently take care of the inflammation without suppressing your normal, natural, healthy immune function. Why are people on immunosuppressants more prone to infection? That's why, because the immune system is not responding as it can. It's not being allowed to. It's being suppressed, right? So things you can use for that, I do talk about in the article link. I've put it on Facebook already. It'll be on the IGTV of this. Glutamine, which is an amino acid. Glutamine has some fantastic research on that with eczema. You can take a look at that study at drpingel.com. Slippery elm, aloe vera, marshmallow root. Those are all wonderful herbs. Once again, talked about them yesterday. I have them on the website. Also some links to some research on how those work. Shea butter. I loved shea butter. It was a great remedy for shea. Now others may find it too thick. They may break out to it. You can use things topically like coconut oil, avocado oil, jojoba oil, any type of oil that absorbs in. The reason I liked the shea butter is because it actually created a barrier. So when you look at conventional treatments for eczema, you'll see a lot of the times it includes this really thick thick lotion that basically blocks things from causing an impact. Shea butter does that as well. It's also very hydrating and it doesn't have a bunch of chemicals in it. So that's why I like it. But that is an option. Now, apple cider vinegar. How many of you were here for my apple cider vinegar live? I think a lot of you. If you missed it, check it out. I will say apple cider vinegar has so many benefits for eczema. One, it can be used topically, okay? I explain how to do that in the linked article. Essentially just putting it, I explain the dilution and all of that, putting it over the areas of irritation. You can use it on your face. You can also use it internally. A lot of the time, skin conditions happen because you're not digesting your food well. You don't have the right acid balance. You don't have the ability to break these things down, okay? So apple cider vinegar can help restore your digestion. Not to mention, it's amazing in so many ways. As far as flora, if you're using the mother, you're getting an unfiltered, you've got beneficial flora going in there. You've got the acid impact going in there. Topically, it has tons of antimicrobial impact. Awesome remedy, okay? So I wrote about this in the eczema article that's linked. I also have a separate article on apple cider vinegar at drpingel.com, and I have a whole hour, I think, 45 minutes of all apple cider vinegar and why we love it. So check that out. In adults, looking at liver support is key. Okay, looking at what you're putting in that's bogging down the liver that could be causing eczema, and then looking at ways to eliminate that burden. Now there's lots of herbs that do this. One that's very well indicated and that you may have heard of is called milk thistle. Now there are some contraindications to milk thistle. Please don't go out and use it without talking to your doctor, okay? But I want to make you aware of it so you can research it, so you can ask the questions. That's why I bring this to your attention, is not to tell you to take it because everyone's different, but to make you aware of it, so that you know what to look for, so you know what to ask your doctor. Okay, that's why I do these lives, right? So milk thistle can have some amazing benefits in that, and as well as dandelion. I did a live on dandelion, have an article on that as well. Dandelion tea is very easy to find, has great benefits to the skin. So does burdock root, which I'm sure I will do a live on as well. I love burdock. That's one of my absolute favorite herbs as well, along with fennel, which I talked about yesterday. Milk thistle has been shown to have liver protective effect, not only in regeneration of liver cells, but also in detoxification. So that's a good one to ask about and look into. Okay, guys? And always remember, stay hydrated. Okay, stay hydrated. What does that mean? At least half your body weight in ounces of water a day. Okay, so if you're 200 pounds, you need at least 100 ounces of water. Now, if you're dehydrated, your cells are flat, you don't have a good diet, your skin isn't plump, you're gonna need more, right? On top of that, you should be exercising. How do we get toxins out through the skin? We sweat, right? Exercise, get some moving, put water in, sweat it out. Okay, these are things that you can do. Anything you do to support the natural digestion and detoxification process, the better the eczema is going to be, okay? Everyone is different, guys. I give you this information so you know what to look for, so you know what to ask, so you don't accept just simply a steroid topical as a treatment. You ask your doctor about what kind of testing can I do? Can I do food allergy testing, food intolerance testing? What's going on with my diet? Am I nutrient deficient? Am I getting enough flora? How's the health of my skin? Do I have enough fats? Am I getting enough water? These are the things, if you're aware of, you know what to ask and you know what to look at. And not only will that help skin conditions, but it will also help your overall energy, stress response, and all of that. We are all connected. Our bodies are connected. Everything links to everything else. So if you have two symptoms in different parts of the body, trust me, there's a link. Find it, right? That's what naturopathic medicine does. You find the root. You find the cause for the symptom. You support the cause. You change the way the body reacts to it. You improve the symptom, okay? So, tons of information on all of these things and more health conditions. If you're new to these lives, check out drpingel.com. If you liked it, please share it. You guys have been so awesome with sharing everything. If you're looking for a general health program, I have that too. If you just need information you like to read, drpingel.com will cover you there. I do these lives every day to the best of my ability with some occasional replays, Monday through Friday around this time, okay? And my website, drpingel.com, has links to my book. It has links to my adrenal fatigue program, which is a 30-day program that helps you clean up your diet, incorporate exercise, learn more about how stress impacts your health, and it has a lot of online Facebook support and things like that. It's a great program if you're trying to look for something to do from home. If you can't find a doctor in your area or you're not sure where to start, it's a great start. Otherwise, tons of articles still heading up there, tons of videos. I want you guys to all be well. Try to stay positive as our states slowly open up. Let's all work together. Let's try to stay healthy. Let's do what we can. And hopefully we can kind of get back to some sort of reality soon. So you have questions? Pop them below. Check out drpingel.com and I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you again for being here. So nice to see you. Get outside and enjoy some sunshine if you're out here in the West Coast. Okay? Take care now. Bye-bye.